go to... Yeah, give a second, it's like a little slow. You go to EnglishNews.us.
EnglishNews.us?
Yeah. You know, I gave your husband a business card if you want too.
Great, thank you. Okay, great.
That's got the website on there. Yeah, in the next month or so, I'm going to work on getting myself a dedicated service to the website.
So how many subscribers do you have? Do you have any idea?
Well, I have, the whole website is free for the public to read, but like on subscribers right now, I have 4 advertisers, and as of Monday, I'm going to have, let me see, 4 advertisers on Subscribestar, which is like the online service that we to produce content creators to support me, the content creator. But in my case, I'm just using it for people to support me. And eventually I'll have some, like the higher tiers, I might put some perks in there. But as of right now, it's just, just hey, I want to help out the local certain news out, contribute. That's what it is right now. So like this is the website right here. And actually I gotta work on getting this in the center, but it's like this is like my latest top story, Jackie got endorsed by 817. Anthony's a guy who's been really pushing for constitutional carry in the state legislature. He's a big time feature. He's even met with Donald Trump actually.
17?
Yeah, 17. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
He was here in town, about 6 months ago?
Something like that. Yeah, actually, I have a rich one. Yeah.
You were at the REC meeting 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
Is it true that Governor DeSantis is going to endorse people in all these different...
Oh, and keep in mind you're live, by the way. You're on live audio. If you want to look up at my phone, right up over there if you look at that. I just want to make you aware that you are live, so... just keep in mind that I don't want to be discussing recent business.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No,
you're good. It's just what it is. The REC rules can be very strict, so you want to make sure you're covered. Yeah.
Well, it's all above board.
Yeah.
It's honest.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, this is
I don't mind if I'm saying something that's true and honest.
Yeah, just something should not, disclosing stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Hey Jennifer, good news. Everything actually works. So this is the first probably event in this county. It's going to be live on Rumble.
Checks in the mail, okay? Yeah, you're set.
All right,
So we're going to announce them to come in. Yep, and we're starting. Yep, the certification.
Yeah. That seems good. Hello. Are we good? There we go. All right. Cool. All right, everybody, if you want to come on in to the auditorium so we can get started, grab a seat. Plenty of seats left up front. There's some reserved seating up here, too. Pick up the...
Did you send it to me? No, I haven't. But I will. You have my email now? Yes. Okay, so there's 2 of them.
Come on in, everyone. Come on in. Don't be shy. Step right up. Come on in. Come on in. 3 minutes till 7. Doors are shut. Right up, plenty of seats up front.
Which one?
All right. Back on again. All right, there we go. Everybody's in. Nobody in the lobby? All right, everyone. Welcome to the Candidates Forum. We're going live here at Indian River News and on TGI Now Podcast. So we're live, Facebook Live, all that good stuff. So we're getting the word out there to as many people as we can. So we'll get started. I'm going to bring up Jennifer Pippin. She's going to go over the groups and give you guys an idea of what's up to come, and then we'll keep it rolling. All right.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. Before we get started here, how many parents do we have in this room? Please raise your hand. How many grandparents do we have in this room? How many community members or tax-paying members do we have in this room? That's everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We're doing this for you. We're doing this so you can see the candidates, you can speak to the candidates, you can hear from the candidates, because we don't want to tell you who to vote for. We can do that. That's too easy. We want you to meet the candidates. We want you to meet them, get to know them, ask them the questions. All of the questions Chris is going to go over. But so Moms for Liberty was formed in Brevard and Indian River July 1st of last year. And it was only supposed to be in Florida. So they were going to have 67 chapters, and it just blew up. As soon as it started going off in Florida, California started calling, New York started calling. So now, a year and 4 months in, we have 184 chapters. We're in 34 states, and we have over 85,000 members. So when you hear in certain news outlets that we're a small group or we're a fringe group, absolutely not. And we want to be in every county in the country. That's our goal, because there's nothing more important than parental rights and children. We the People, Indian River, Florida, was formed in July of 2020 in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, when things were getting shut down, mask mandates, we saw in the future the vaccine mandates, and we fought and fought and fought here locally against the city council, the county council, the school board. So we have two groups of amazing parents, grandparents, and community members, many in this room here today, and many watching live, that have been fighting again for our rights to keep our businesses open, to keep the COVID-19 protocols away. And we are going to continue that with this candidate forum. Again, it's too easy to tell you who to vote for. We want you to see them. We want you to hear them. We want you to ask them questions. And again, we want to thank you so very much for being here this evening. There's snacks in the lobby, there's drinks in the lobby, and restrooms are out the doors. It's my left, your guys' right. So again, enjoy the evening. I would like to introduce Chris Allen. She is the Vice Chairman for Moms for Liberty and one of the co-founders for We the People Indian River County. Thank you.
thank you all for coming here. I wanted to go over, I guess, the process of how we invited all the members the candidates to here. On March 24th, we sent out an invite to every single candidate that was up. The next week, we sent them certified mail so that we could get receipts that they got the mail. And then on April 7th, we sent a reminder email. So these are the ones that responded. The ones that are here are Jackie Rosario, Thomas Kenny, Josh Post, and Jim Parla. Teri, Barenborg, and Jean Posca responded that unfortunately they could not attend. And we did not get a response from LaDonna, Corbin, or Cindy Gibbs. So just thank you all for coming. We appreciate that the candidates took their time to come here to speak to the people so that all of us can make an informed choice as an informed electorate. Thank you. And coming up is Evan Allen. He is a board member from Mounts for Liberty and the co-founder of We the People also.
Wow, hello. Thank you all for coming. Glad you could make it tonight. Really happy to see all these faces, and hope you all learned something tonight about the candidates and make an informed decision. I do want to take a moment to thank our partners that we have that helped us out tonight. We have Indian River News. It's from Sebastian. If you don't know about Indian River News, check it out. It's indianrivernews.us, and it's on the web. Nice new website all set up and ready to go, and it's putting out news as we speak, and he's also live streaming this event. So, and also we want to thank TGI Now and John Corapi, and as a matter of fact, that is the Master of Ceremonies tonight. So I will, without further ado, introduce and turn it over to John Corapi.
Microphone thingy here. Thank you. All right, TGI Now, how everybody doing? Great. I am John Corapi. Some of you know me from past lives. Hibiscus Children's Center, Salvation Army, and most notably Indian River Chamber of Commerce, where I was fired from my job for speaking out against certain things in the school boards. So now it's turned into a TGI Now podcast, and so I'm stepping into my role, just like, we all see that that's what happens. You end up being pushed off a cliff or stepped into a role, and now here I am. Who would have thought that a year ago today, or around this time, that I'd be sitting up here in front of you on this stage talking to you about the candidates forum. And the God's honest truth is, I didn't think I would be either. So thanks for being here. TGI Now is a podcast that we do locally here in town. We bring in special guests, local celebrities, local people. There's a few people in here. Gus Curran's here in the room right now. Gus was on our podcast, and so we bring in people to talk about what's really going on in the community and give you an informed effort on what to see, what you're seeing, what you see at the school board meetings, but being here tonight and seeing that. So our podcast is on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, it's on different outlets, Google Podcasts. So subscribe to us, tune in, and get some things that you normally wouldn't get on the mainstream news and 32963 and all those good ones that like to write articles about me. So I wanted to do that. The main reason I'm here is because we want to be informed and we're concerned citizens of the community. I have a son. He goes to school here. Everybody here has an equal reasoning of being here, and obviously the candidates that are running, they want to make a change. They want to do things in a different way and do things that might be the best interest of the people and listening to the people, and not just hearing them but not listening and making informed decisions and doing things that the people want to do because they work for us. And so that's the beauty of what we're doing. So thank you for being here. We're going to do Nate Wilkerson's going to do the prayer. Or no, not Nate. Steve, I'm sorry. Steve, it was before. Steve's going to do it. So we're going to do a prayer, and then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'm going to pick the candidates' names out of the jar, and then we'll bring it one by one. Each candidate 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll do the questions that way, and then we'll come around. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct? All right. Perfect.
Okay, to paraphrase Solomon, Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in charge, the people rejoice. When the wicked, not so much. Let's go for prayer. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity to meet these folks who want to be candidates. They're willing to step up and lead. We thank you for that. And for each person who has turned out tonight and do due diligence, try to discern your will, put good people into office. We pray that that will be done to your glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Now let's get on with the show. All right, ready? That won't look. No bias here. That's what they told me not to be. All right, first one up is Josh Post. Josh, you're right here next to me. Look at that. Just got to meet each other, and now you sit right next to me. All right, do another one. We got Jackie Rosario. Yeah. And then next we'll have Jim Parla. Number 3. So Jackie, you gotta move down here. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to work. Sorry, you're good. And then last but not least, I think it's Thomas Kenny. No way.
You sure?
You can switch if you guys want. Roll the dice. All right.
She wants to be moved.
All right. Now let me grab my magical questions. All right. We have 3 minutes for the questions, so I'll give you the question. If there's any follow-up questions that are on there, I'll let you know ahead of time so you can fit it in. Once the 3 minutes is up, obviously I'll cut you off. I mean, if you're in mid-sentence or anything like that, then I'll be like, all right, that's good. All right, makes sense? All right. You guys ready?
It's way any longer.
No, I'm sorry. All right. All right, first up. All right. Josh, you're first up. This is your question. I got to put my glasses on. All right. So, metal shop at Sebastian High School must seemingly fight every year to keep its funding. Will you vote to keep this elective program permanent going forward? What educational options would you support for students who want an alternative to college?
Thank you for the question. I would support funding that. As a former teacher in this school district for 6.5 years, I will tell you that not every child is ready to go to college. They don't want to go to college. And so they have to have some alternative options for that. And that would be one of the areas, automotive shop, those sorts of things are important because we need to have people that when they leave our education system here, they have skills that they can use to provide for themselves, that they can use to provide for their family. You know, we do not need to have students that have a diploma, but they have no skills. And unfortunately, we're in a society right now where, I mean, we've all been at places. You ask questions, you ask people to make change, and without the computer, they're like, So as I go forward and I look at this, those type of things that can maybe have a child that maybe would drop out, maybe would be in a scenario where they wouldn't finish going to college. This would give them the option to do something that they would be able to provide. Could you repeat the second part of that?
Yes. It says, will you vote to keep this elective program permanent going forward? What educational options do you support for students who want an alternative to college?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to offer additional options for our students. AC Tech, I mean, there's so many great opportunities that we have. I mean, I think about when I was a student, we had shop, we had a bunch of different things that you would learn, skills, work with your hands. Again, not everybody's book smart. There's a lot of people that are out there, a lot of students out there that are very good with their hands. My uncle's amazing. He has very little education past high school, but he is unbelievable carpentry-wise. And so we need to be able to offer these things to our students so that they can provide for themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Jacqueline Rosario. I'm one of the current school board members here in Indian River. This conversation has come up multiple times, and yes, I would absolutely vote to keep this programming in place. But one of the other things that we have recently discussed were other options. For some people who don't know, I am the only school board member who really lives school choice. I homeschool my son, but I also advocate for public high school. And so why I think it's so important is because not everyone, not all children learn the same way. We have to differentiate instruction, and we also have to differentiate the options for the kids. So one of the things that I would love to see come back into the district is construction. Construction and building is something that was removed a few years ago, and I think we need to have it, come back into the building, into the schools. Another thing that I would love to have, and I had this conversation just recently with a few people who are very interested in it, is to open up an agricultural school or maybe an ag tech program. And within that ag tech program, my vision is to just have this ag tech school or this ag tech program be a dual enrollment school, also with maybe an animal husbandry or some other options so that kids who love participating in the fair and who love participating in showing their animals or whatever it is that they're growing, if it's a lemon, lime tree, citrus, I'm not sure exactly. That's not my particular area, but it's an interest for children, and it's something that we're lacking here in Indian River County. So I think that those are the kinds of programs that we need to bring back. With regard to some of the other programs that we currently have, I don't know if some of you know, but we already have a Treasure Coast Technical College. And that Treasure Coast Technical College is a wonderful opportunity for people here in our area. It is part of the school district. It's almost a hidden secret. Not a lot of people know about it. But it is a college for adults, and yet we do offer it for our students in our schools as a dual enrollment program. So students can go there and receive college credit at the same time as receiving a high school diploma. And what they learn there are different specific techs. There's an RN tech program. Next year I have been advocating strongly for the next phase in that school, and they're bringing in a surgical technical program. They're also bringing in an early childhood program, and they're going to be expanding their culinary arts and their hospitality. So these are areas that I think Indian River has not had before, and it would be just wonderful opportunities for kids. Certainly different options, different choices.
Hey, this question is very dear to my heart. Maybe a lot of people do not know about the Treasure Coast Technical College as part of the Indian River County School District. I sit on the advisory committee for the technical college. And as Jackie had indicated, it's a wonderful program. I'm a firm believer, and I'm very, obviously if I sit on the advisory committee, I'm very supportive of all of their programs. We are also pushing forward to put in place a culinary program. And I think that you have to take a look at the welding program that they have. It's absolutely wonderful. I've toured it. Trying to find a good welder today, very difficult. And we're training people to do welding and to really learn a lot of the trades as well as nursing and other aspects of vocational or career and technical education. I am a very strong supporter of career and technical education. I think for far too long we've demonized vocational education and career and technical education, pushing kids into college that might have the aptitude for the technical area, different technical areas, vocational areas. So we push them into college, and we've taken away their opportunity. And I think we need to do more in the area of vocational education. I'm a strong supporter. I would support all of these programs. I was told that if I get a seat on the school board, I can't be on the committee anymore. But I could work. I could be helpful in many other ways. Very interestingly, I'd like to tell a quick story about my friend Jerry Milladantry. When we were in high school, we graduated. I went to college, and he joined a company called Chromaloid. Jerry was very mechanically inclined. We were always working on our cars together and so on. To make a long story short, he became CEO of one of their subsidiaries. There's a multi-million-dollar home in Connecticut outside of Greenwich, I believe it is. And, that didn't quite happen for me. So he didn't go to college. And there are plenty of opportunities, and the Lord knows that in our country we need more people involved in manufacturing. We need to bring more manufacturing back to the United States. We need to have more people trained in the career and technical areas. So I'm a strong supporter of all the programs.
Hi, I'm Thomas Kenny. One of the things that I think about technical schools, they're very dear to my heart because I have a business that's all about technical operations in the audiovisual world. If you go on the Florida Department of Education, there is a whole list of different technical careers that the state has programming in. Audiovisual being one. This is a huge state for entertainment and things like that, so it works for a person like me. That's my business. And so, you know, whether it is nursing, whether it is welding, all these different types of fields, the beauty of them all is that they pay above the wage in this county. You're looking at about $54,000 is the mean wage in this county. I can tell you most of these jobs are up in the 70, 80 to 100 range. So it's very important that kids have opportunities that are outside of college. I did go to college. It took me a long time to get through college. Okay? I worked while I was in school, so paid a lot of my own way and all that stuff. But the important thing is when I got into mass media, I learned how to use things, and I had to adjust my education on the fly. Kids coming out of school can't do that today. It's too competitive. And so we need to offer them avenues into these different fields so they can compete and raise their families.
So I was just informed that we're going to, each question, we're going to skip down to each candidate. So this time around, Jackie's going to go first at this point. And I also didn't announce what districts each person is into. So Jackie is District 2, Josh, you're District 2 as well, Jim, you're District 1, and then Thomas is District 4. So just let people know that. I didn't do that either, so just so you're informed. All right, so we're on to question number 2. All right, Jackie, you're up. All right, Florida statute and state board rules require all U.S. history materials shall be factual and accurate and teach in depth our nation's founding principles. They specifically prohibit the teaching of critical race theory, 1619 Project, BLM Marxists, and any other of their tentacles. What is your stand on critical race theory as well as social and emotional learning?
So I think this is pretty easy. I think all of you know how I feel about it. Critical race theory, and if you don't, I'm sure it'll be in the newspaper soon. Critical race theory is, I don't believe that critical race theory belongs in the schools. I don't believe that it belongs in our textbooks, in our classrooms, in our libraries, in any way. What I feel about critical race theory is that it's very divisive. It pits one race against the other, and it believes at its core that America is essentially a racist country. We have come too far in this country. Do I think that racism exists? Yes, I do. But I do not believe that our country is essentially holistically racist. And I also don't believe that we should have dividing conversations in the classroom where you are pitting one race against the other. You cannot come against racism with racism. You'll never be able to get past it. So we have to be able to be inclusive. We have to be able to understand that this is not about white against black or black against white, or African American, I should say, against white, or vice versa. Because we have a country and a culture here in Indian River that is multicultural, it is multi-ethnic. We do not have just one or two races in our community. That's one of the reasons why I do not believe in critical race theory. And it is coming in. It is not something that the school district is pushing. It is something that what I see, it's coming in through curriculum, through publishers, through library books that are coming in nationally through some of these, library learning outlets. It is really not something, the majority. It is really not something that the majority of people here are kind of saying, yes, let's teach this in our classroom. I'm sure we have a small faction who would like it to be in the classrooms, but overall we are trying really hard. I am trying really hard to vote no on anything that is critical race theory, to make sure that we do not have any of the issues that are coming up with that, as you hear in the news. Social and emotional learning, I am on the fence about, and let me tell you why. Years ago, social and emotional learning, 10, 15 years ago, it was a good thing to have in the schools because there were students who were really needing the extra support if they came to school hungry. I've always taught in New York. I was a teacher and a school administrator at Title I schools. And there were always students that I dealt with who were had very, very difficult homes. And sometimes they would come hungry, sometimes they would come with distractions, they were unfocused. And these just gave teachers an opportunity, a different way of really loving on students so that they can succeed in the classroom. That's not the case right now. Social and emotional learning seems to take on a whole different view nowadays, and it's being tied in with critical race theory and some of these other social pushes in our community. So we have to really keep an eye on it and make sure that it doesn't overtake our schools, because it's not good. The way that the direction is going, it is just not good.
Okay, teaching our children to judge each other by the color of their skin is horrific. In this whole woke era, by the way, I hate that word woke, okay, just so you know. It's really dividing our children. It's dividing our country. And critical race theory and the way that it's presented should not be in our schools. Critical race theory is based on, if many of you already know, the essay that was written in the New York Times and called the 1619 Project. I get into conversations with people, and I am a former educator, I'm a retired school superintendent, and as a result of that, I do get into discussions with a lot of people about this. And, it's very interesting that when I talk to them, they haven't read the 1619 Project. I've read the 1619 Project. And so I'm able to have a debate with them or have a discussion with them about how inaccurate a lot of the history, the quote-unquote history that's being presented, how inaccurate it is. For example, the fact that one of the issues in the Revolutionary War was slavery, that's just not true, okay? But that's being pushed in the 1619 Project. Slavery could not have been an issue in the Revolutionary War, and the basis for that, they indicate, was because England had outlawed slavery, and therefore that if the British would then outlaw slavery in the in America at the time, or in the colonies. Well, that makes no sense because England was very active in the slave trade and through the islands, and they were making a lot of money. So it just didn't make any sense. It falls apart. And if you read the 1619 Project, a lot of the things that are presented are inaccurate. There are some accurate things in there, but most of it is inaccurate. It's revisionist history. And we have a law now that, we're not supposed to be teaching it, but we also have to keep an eye on critical race theory being presented in different ways, not being called critical race theory, but being called other things under the guise of other topics. Let's make sure that our kids respect one another, that they're not oppressed and oppressors, that they should not be judging their fellow students, their fellow friends by the color of their skin or by their ethnic background. That's very, very important. And as a former superintendent, I'm horrified that this is taking place, and it's one of the reasons I'm sitting here.
One of the things about the founding principles of our country is the stress of the right of the individual over the group. BLM, critical race theory, 1619 Project, all of these theories, groups, what have you, are to separate people and balkanize them by color, economic class, whatever, and remove the individual of our founding principles, who has life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness given to them by God. The goal of these groups and these theories is to take it all away. BLM was started in the LA Unified School District by Patrice Colliers and Tanetti, I can't remember her name, in the Oakland Unified School District. Their first activists were high school students. Okay? One of the things that's going on in the schools right now is that we're stressing identity over education. Because when you do that, you've created a grief in the minds and the hearts of the children. And when you create grief in the minds and the hearts of the children about being identified with this group or that group, they don't think about themselves as individuals anymore. And as a result, they lose the value of their American heritage, white, black, or otherwise. I'll be critical about critical race theory. It's wrong. The end. It's a theory. Social emotional learning started out. What really bugs me about all of this, because now we're calling it mental health, the language is changing faster to sell it to you than it is, than we can keep up with. Right? Social emotional learning in 2020 became transformative social emotional learning, with an emphasis on groups that have been wrong, like the 1619 Project claims. If you know a little bit of history, you'll know one thing. Thomas Jefferson originally wrote the Declaration of Independence with an abolishment of slavery in it. The British didn't free slaves until 1830, so during the Revolutionary War, that never really happened. And when they did it in 1830, they only did it on the island. They didn't do it over here in their colonies, because they didn't want their people to see. So to me, all of this stuff is historically inaccurate and must be abolished.
I'm against any social agendas being taught in the public school system. Period. We need to focus on the education of the children. Period. As a former educator, it's really important that you look at data and analyze data. And one of the things that concerns me about our district, this is obviously really important. We have social agendas here that are being, children trying to be indoctrinated, etc. But we can't just be, these are not mutually exclusive events. The education part has to be focused on as well. And as I look at this from a parent's perspective, having 4 children that went through the Indian River County School District, and one is a 22-year-old student with autism, he ages out this year. And now a grandfather of a 3.5-year-old who will go to public school, just like I did, just like his parents did, this is all divisive. All of it. It's money versus money, people with money versus no money, the 99 versus the 1. Right? It's something against white, black against white, Hispanic against white, white against something, whatever. It's all divisive. This is just the other way the enemy is trying to infiltrate into our lives and take away what we really have as a great country, the melting pot of our country. And it is very important that we have to take a stand. And that's why I'm running. I'm here to take a stand. I don't want any of these things that are going to cause divisiveness to be in the public education system. Period. The social and emotional learning. There's some great things that happen. My son is a 5th grade math and science teacher at Sebastian Elementary. I taught in this school district for 6.5 years. Every Friday, there are certain students that get a bag to go home. And it has food in it. That's a great thing. Because ultimately, what we were talking about, what Jackie was saying about her students coming to school, didn't have food, they were hungry, etc. Folks, that's happening. And it's happening right here. It is happening to a lot. He's got, 18 kids in his class. Half of them go home with bags of food on the weekend. That's scary. So it does have a place, the social part of what we're trying to do, teach kindness. Those are all great things. But what does that really tell you? It's not happening at the homes. It's not happening in the homes anymore. Parents need to step up. We need to get people involved. Churches need to become involved with people, asking, what can we do to help? So again, completely against any social agendas being taught in the school system.
All right, I'm back on, and there I am. All right, now we're on to question number 3. Jim, you're up. This is a hot topic. This is a topic we discuss on the TGI Now Podcast a lot. So this is you're up first on this one. What steps should the board take to ensure our schools abide by Florida laws and statutes in place to protect children from exposure to inappropriate content such as sexual, explicit, pornographic, descriptive, and sexually emotional content, specifically as it pertains to school libraries, media centers, and supplemental instructional material, and or recommended reading lists?
Okay, this is an area that I've been very involved with in my career as an educator, as a superintendent, as a school principal, an assistant superintendent for business, and so on. I understand that there is a process for reviewing and vetting books. The current superintendent indicated that process was not followed. We have to make sure that a vetting process, a review process, is in fact followed. And the only way that can be done is, number one, to make sure that our school media specialists receive professional development and training so that they know how to do the vetting and the review. And how do you do that? Well, you have to be familiar with all of the great literature for children that is currently out there through different organizations and associations, like, for example, the John Newbery Award-winning books. There is so much good children's literature that should be on our library shelves, and really there's no room for anything that has any sexual explicit passages or pictures or whatever it may be. Totally inappropriate. So how do we monitor that? We monitor that by making sure that our administration reviews that process, makes sure that that process is being followed, that there be meetings with the school media people, the librarians, as we also call them, to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to keep these books out in the first place. We shouldn't be talking about banning. They shouldn't be on the shelves to begin with, okay? And, my sense of it is that if you're sitting there as a school librarian, and I'm not saying that this happens, but it could, and you're just blindly ordering from some of these book companies without knowing what books are being, in fact, ordered, well, that's not really implementing the process in the way that it should be implemented. I've taken great efforts to be involved with this when I was a school administrator, when I was a superintendent, meeting with school librarians, also sending out recommendations for the types of literature that should be on our library shelves. And quite frankly, the vetting process has to be monitored. We have to make sure that school librarians are doing what they have to do, that we cannot violate the law. The law is the law, and we have to make sure that we abide by it and set an example for our teachers and all of our students that we do, in fact, respect and abide by the law. And it's another horrific issue and another reason why I'm here.
John, could you repeat the question?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Hello? All right. What steps should the board take to ensure our schools abide by the Florida laws and statutes in place to protect children from exposure to inappropriate content such as sexually explicit, pornographic, descriptive, and sexual emotional content, specifically as it pertains to school libraries, media centers, supplemental instructional material, and or recommending reading lists?
They should follow the law. I'm going to read you the law. I had a feeling this might come up tonight. The law. Up to 50% of annual allocation may be used for the purchase of library and reference books and non-print materials. That's 50% of your curriculum monies. Okay, that's tax dollars, big time. So let's read what the qualifications are. Any materials purchased pursuant to this section must be free of pornography and material prohibited under 847012 and suited to the needs and their ability to comprehend the material presented and appropriate for the grade level and age group for which the materials are used or made available. These books were put on the shelf for one reason only. They had a discussion about what was age appropriate. But wait, it said they had to have 3 or 4 qualities here: free of pornography and age appropriate. So what does age appropriate really mean? Because the pornography issue settled in point 1. This is Florida Statute 1006.40. The policy in the school actually says or. Very wrong. That needs to be fixed. 9130 needs to be fixed. It quotes this inaccurately. An or and an and can change the whole context of the law. You hear me? They did not follow the law. They used the policy or the procedure or whatever. So, what does age appropriate mean? Well, I'm not going to give a physics book to a kindergartner. Right? I'm not going to get it. It has to be age appropriate for grade level, or age appropriate and for grade level. We understand 5-year-olds are in kindergarten, 6-year-olds, 6, 7, so on and so forth, right? That's what age appropriate is. It's not how much porn they can take. This is really fraught for me to know. The superintendent, when he first heard about this, said, well, a lot of these books are top 100. I come from a media background with publishing. I was in the music industry. Records, publishing. I know what they do. They create their own top 100 lists. And if you're selling 3 or 4 copies to a rural county like Indian River, you're selling 50 of them to date. And you're doing it on our tax dollars. And when you're doing it on our tax dollars, you immediately sold a few 100,000 books all across the country, and boom, you're on top 100 list. Nobody's read it. That's how the publishing industry works. And this has to stop.
These type of books are not and should not be, they are in, but they should not be in our public education school system. Libraries. At all. Period. I'm a very black and white person. And the reality is I do believe this though. Everybody has a right, every parent has a right to raise their family the way they choose to raise them. I may raise my family different than you different than someone else. If people want their children to read this material, we have an Indian River County Public Library. They can go take them to them if that's what they want. Now, I would hope they would love this type of material to be read to, especially age-appropriate or inappropriate scenarios. But they have that right. And in the public school system, these materials should not be here. The fact that I think we took 5 or 6 books out of the 61 recommended, that's pretty scary. And how would I ensure that schools abide by this? You have to be involved on this. What makes a librarian any different than you or me? Truthfully. We all can read, hopefully. And we need the public's input. We need your input as part of the community to be able to say, we'll take those librarians as part of this, but we also want other parts of our county for people to come in and have a committee based upon that. So that it's not just one-sided, it's not just people that the public schools chose, but it's actually the community that's involved. That's why we're all here. That's why I'm running. Because it is time that we get involved and not allow these things to happen. There's an old saying, there's an old story my father-in-law, who's a retired pastor, used to tell me. And he said, Josh, he said, if you boiled water and you threw a frog in it, most of you have probably heard this before, what's that frog going to do? He's jumping out. But he said, if you put water on the stove and just turn the heat up a little, put the frog in there and turn the heat up just a little bit, and a little bit, that frog will cook. That's where we are right now. That's exactly where we are. We have sat back too long, and now instead of saying we're not going to let it in, we have to get it out. It should have never got there to begin with. And that's what we have to do. We have to stop this information from getting into the schools, and now we have to purge it and get it out. And we need everybody to be involved in this. All parts of the community need to be involved with this. All races of the community need to be involved in this. Because this is our kids. This is my grandson. This is your children and your grandchildren.
Okay, so this is how it all began. Moms for Liberty were the first to actually bring up the fact that we had these inappropriate books in our libraries. For months, the complaints were coming into the district. For months, nothing was happening. So as a school board member, you raise it, this is how you handle it. You raise it, you bring it to the superintendent's attention, and you say, what are we doing about this? When nothing is done, you bring it to the board. And you have the board, hopefully, will agree with you on this item and charge the superintendent with looking at the library books, looking at our libraries and our media centers, and then having a full review over Follett Learning System, which is the learning system that has actually recommended the books to come into the schools in the first place. We did that. I did that. I was the only school board member who did that. The only one who had an issue. I was the only one who brought up to the superintendent and to the school board that there is an issue here, and the fact that the school district had not looked into these books for months as they were still coming in. We didn't have 60, we had over 150 books that came in that either had sexual content in it or critical race theory. Thanks to Moms for Liberty, we wouldn't know that they were on the shelves in the first place. You don't know what you don't know, but when you know it, you have to act on it. So now we were aware. At that point, we charged, November 16th, we charged the superintendent with a full review of, again, like I said, the library, the media center, the processes, the policies, and the library books all at once. At that point, they moved forward, and he had no choice but to do the will of the board. The board agreed, and he looked into the entire process. They started a review of the library books, which did not follow our policy that we had, which was policy 9130. I brought that up as well, and it was ignored. At that point, what you all need to do, because ultimately you all know that those books were put back on the shelves. What you all need to do in order to answer this question is to change the board. The only no vote, the only nay vote to have those books on the shelves. And more than that, what was put forward was a request to have the parents make the decision. Now all of a sudden everybody's on board with parental choice. The parents would make the decision as to whether you wanted your children to read these books on the shelves or not. That's ridiculous. That is not only asking parents to engage in unlawful information for their child, to engage in the parents, to give permission for their children to read illegal material, is absolutely ridiculous. I was going to use a different word. But that's my stance on it. Those books need to be gone. And when you have like-minded board members, right now those books wouldn't be there.
Thank you.
All right, so parental rights. This question here, again, like you said about parental rights, I'm surprised that we're still even having this conversation on the next question number 4, which Thomas will be starting us out. Since 2020, parents have been refused access to children's educational materials, having lunch with their child at school, and being a guest in the child's classroom for a portion of the day. Parents used to be welcomed in the classroom upon request. What is your plan to return to pre-COVID protocols with regard to these examples?
Just do it. I mean, it's, we can go on planes now without masks. I think we can go into a classroom. It's a little less, it's not a sardine can with wings, right? I mean, it's common sense. A lot of what we're talking about tonight is common sense. We're not talking rocket science here. Progressives like to make things about rocket science. And we're the only ones who understand. I mean, social emotional learning and a lot of these things, what you referenced earlier in regards to food and stuff like that, that's not learning, that's a service to the community. And helping. That's great. Everybody has that innate desire to do that in themselves. And then to see it done, it just reinforces that desire to go do it. And that's great. But we're talking about things where people are trying to just use these different things that happen in society as a way to take and usurp control. And if the parents aren't able to be in the classroom with their kids when they want to be, they have no rights over their kids. Right? As soon as you walk through that door, your right's gone because you're not allowed to go visit your son or daughter. That makes no sense. Common sense, that's just, not in my world. I'm a taxpayer. I don't have kids. But when I see parents going through these emotional outbursts over this stuff that we've been talking about here tonight and different things like that, and as a taxpayer, I see my money being invested in it, I don't want to be a part of that. And that's why I'm here. It's really important that to develop the community between parents and teachers. The best thing a parent will get out of seeing their kid being taught by a teacher is a chance to build a trusting relationship with that teacher and the child at the same time. Why would we take that away?
All of you should be going to if you have students, children, grandchildren, go to the schools. Go in, see what's occurring. It's scary. I've talked to at least 40, 50 teachers easily that have said the same thing to me, except for one. Josh, the discipline is out of control. Go in to the school system. I will totally make that available to you. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. I taught here, again, you're going to hear me say it again, 6.5 years from Grove Middle School, algebra honors, geometry honors, pre-algebra. In the 6.5 years that I taught in this school district, you know how many parents came into my classroom?
5.
One. See, what's happened is we've done exactly what we've basically been told to do. Drop your kid off, let the school take care of them. They're going to teach them everything. They're going to teach them manners now. We got to teach them right from wrong because it's not happening at home anymore. Folks, it's scary. 6 fights at one time at the flick. At one time, planned. By the way, I know one of the administrators. The parents knew about it ahead of time. The fights at Oslo. Gifford here recently with the scare of weapons. Folks, scary. Okay? We have to be involved. You have to be involved. I have to be involved. I couldn't sit back any longer and watch what's occurring and complain about it. I felt the Lord call me into this role. And it would be disobedient of me to say no, regardless of the outcome. People need to get involved. Did you see what Franklin Graham said this week? One of the most important roles in our country right now for politicians to do right now is to run for the school board. Literally said it this week. Confirmation from the Lord for me personally. Because regardless of what happens, I just want to be obedient. I will tell you this. If you don't get involved, you don't know. We have a great community. I tell this to people and they're like, are you serious? Do you know how difficult it is for teachers today with students? My son is a 5th grade math science teacher. You heard me say it. The teachers will send the kids out and they send them right back. It's ridiculous. The kids know they can get away with whatever they want. They know it. We have a serious discipline problem. We have to be involved. Everybody. We have to volunteer. You have to volunteer. Even if you don't have children in the district, you have to volunteer.
So, 2020 was a pretty difficult year for this school district. Going through a pandemic, with schools being closed, trying to reopen the schools. We were all over the place. We were all over the map. But for those of you who have children, you know, the number one success for children, the number one indicator for children's success is parental involvement. If we do not have parents involved, or welcome parents into the schools, or welcome parents into the classrooms, into the cafeterias for lunch, into activities, we're not going to be able to manage the discipline, which is what we're seeing now. We're not going to be able to manage homework, retention, some of the attention deficit, some of the activities that the kids are doing. Parents have the number one foundational right to be with their children in school and out of school. And I think that when we close the doors for parents to come into the school building, we're going to see what we're seeing now, obviously. We are reaping what we sow. We need to open up the schools 100%, which right now we have them, they're supposed to be fully open. So if you're a parent and you want to go to visit your child in your school, you are welcome. You need to, call up the school, speak to the teacher, ask to get involved, ask to volunteer. We have a lot of volunteers in elementary school. But I think Josh is right. We don't have a lot of volunteers in middle school, and we have even less in high school. So the older that the students get, the less parental involvement that there is. One of the avenues that I think could be addressed here, which I don't think is really talked about much, is the PTA. What happened to the Parent-Teacher Association? How much of the parents are involved in their local PTA, in their school PTA, and how many of those are then involved in their countywide PTA? When the PTA involves the parents are invited in, and the PTA can be an avenue for that. But from the board level, we don't really have that access to what happens at the PTA. That's something that is individually run from each of the parent-teacher associations because they are an individual 501c3. But nonetheless, we have to do a better job. We have to do a better job as a school district to invite the parents to reach out to them. I know one of the things that we've just implemented now as a result of trying to reach out, maybe within the last, since actually COVID, I would say, are Facebook Lives. It was an attempt to reach the parents who are on social media. The other thing that could be done is to send out emails and YouTube videos and really have activities for the parents to be involved in that training. I keep going over, I'm sorry. I could talk forever.
Reset the clock? Okay. Schools cannot be successful without the involvement of parents. students cannot be successful without the involvement of parents. They are key critical to the educational process. And I find from my perspective and from my experience, this issue to be somewhat ironic. And the reason I say that is that if we go back to the early to mid-1990s, there was a hue and cry and a push for parents to be more involved in our schools. So much so that legislation in many states across the nation, legislation was passed requiring parents having meaningful input into the educational process. They were called shared decision-making meetings or committees, okay? And they went beyond just fundraising and things of that nature. They wanted parents to be involved with curriculum, with what was going on in the classroom in terms of instruction, every aspect of the school's activities and processes. And it turned out to be extremely valuable. At that time, I wasn't a superintendent at that time, I was an assistant superintendent. I said, isn't it horrible that we actually have to pass laws to draw parents in and to ask them to come in and to require school districts to have these shared decision-making committees. It should be a natural process. Now, all of a sudden, the tables are turned, and there's all sorts of pushback, not only here in Indian River County, but across the nation, with parents not being shut out, with a lack of transparency, and with this divisiveness between, the school district and the parents. We need to all come together if our children are going to be successful in school. We need to all become partners and to have a school partnership with parents and community members, teachers, students, administrators, staff members. Everyone needs to come together in order to participate in the process, to have the right level of, or meaningful level, I should say, of input into the education of our children. And that is something that I pride myself in my reputation, that I always value the input of parents in the educational process. And I've had great relationships with PTAs and so on that have been so supportive, and I was so lucky to have that parental input. And it's where we need to go. Thank you.
I'm on now? All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to take a little quick break. So if anybody wants to go to the bathroom, get some snacks and water back there. How long? 10 minutes, 10-minute break. I also want to thank everybody for the donations up front that you've been giving so far to Mall of Liberty and helping us pay for the cost of doing these things, and hopefully we'll do some more. So please stick around, and the next questions that are coming up are a little bit more interesting, and we get a little deeper. So stick around for the next questions. All right?
It's my first time ever using it. So at least for me, I'm really going to get that stuff. That's what I was about. I literally still talk about stats. That's what's nice.
I thought you can
get that over. So, that would make that really yeah, and also too, it is a lot of effort that we're taking to have the last night. Yeah. Everybody does it work.
there going to be opportunities?
It's already lasting until pretty much 9 o'clock by the time we get done. I've also seen how some candidates it starts to get very like but you know we did submit, you know.
What's that? The 4 more? Yeah. We'll be done. I think we're good. My wife has to. Yeah, we'll be done right on time. What am I doing? I'm doing the podcast. Yeah. Well, that, and then
I'll watch. Oh yeah, it's live. Oh. I didn't want to lose viewers. Just remember that if this is up here, it's always going to stay live from start to end, including breaks. I will make sure next time to tell them that. Sorry.
Are you Sebastian from Sebastian?
Yes, Andy Burns.
Okay. I'm from Sebastian as well. So,
Hey, real quick, 2 things for example.
Breaks over, we gotta start.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, go on up on stage. Yeah,
All
of
right.
course.
all right, we're back. Everybody in from outside. We lost some people a little bit. All right, so we're going to get started again with the next questions. One thing I wanted to ask, just set suggestions. How many administrators or teachers from the Inner County School District are here in the room right now? So we have none. So that's, that's just, oh, wait, oh, there we go. All right, there we go. So we have representation. So just wanted to see, so the candidates can see who's here from the school district, who works here in the school district, so they know who's in there. And also, at the end, I didn't really do an introduction for everybody, but at the end we have a question where you guys will be able to let people know what you want them to take from that. So go ahead and you'll be able to do your final pitch as well. So, all right, that's my bad. Just get used to this thing, this whole MC thing. My new role, MC Corapi. All right, so we'll get back to the questions, and we're starting with you again, right? All right, we're with Josh. He's next. Let's take a look at the questions here. This one's an interesting one, too. Another one that we speak about on the TGI Now Podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Apple Podcast. All that good stuff. All right. Should county schools allow the gender identity of students dictate which bathroom, locker room, and shower facilities they use? Or should this be consistent with their biological sex? And then there's a follow-up question as well. Can you offer any solutions to resolve the issue that may come up regarding this?
How you were born is how we need to identify you. So if you're born male, you should be a male. You'd use the male restrooms, the male facilities, the showers, etc. If you're female, then you should be in there in the female area. Target had an issue in North Carolina a few years ago, if you remember that, where they were allowing men to go into the women's bathrooms. I have not shopped at Target. My wife sometimes does, but I try not to. I think we have to take a moral stand with that and recognize that we were born that specific biological sex, male or female, and that we have to identify as that. So for me personally, obviously you can tell I'm fairly conservative, and I do not believe that should be allowed, that we would allow the opposite gender to be into the bathrooms, etc. Solutions to this. It's great. I mean, this is not just a school board question, right? This is a societal question. And to me, it goes back to morals, teachings, biblical teachings for me personally. about what God says and believing in God's word, that we were created by God. He doesn't make mistakes. And so for me, the solution is to recognize that as we go forward, again, as I said, every family has the ability to raise their children the way that they want to. I would not appreciate someone telling me how I was supposed to raise my children. I would hope that that would not be the case for you. We have agencies across this county, people in terms of issues that they can, if I'm trying to think of the right word here, excuse me. As I think about this, the concept of trying to indoctrinate children, to allow them to identify who they are, how they are, against what they were biologically born, is just wrong. And we have to understand from the perspective that people do have a right to do these things, but if your name is John and you want to go to the female bathroom, that's just not acceptable. And we have to stand on those things. We have to stand on that principle. And so the solutions aren't easy. And to be very candid with you, I don't have a solution. I think as a society, we don't have a solution. I think we know what the solution is. A lot of us know what the solution is. But our society, if you look at where we are in society, this was a Christian nation founded on Christian principles. Folks, are we a Christian nation anymore? Really? So that's what we're up against, and all the things that have happened in terms of getting into the public school system. I want to just finish here real quick. I apologize. But liberals realized really early in the 60s that if they can get to the students, get to the children, they can change the culture in 2 generations. And they have. And we need to make sure that we address that.
I don't believe that that children should use any bathroom that they choose or any bathroom of which they identify. There's a school, I think in Kansas, I'm not sure if it's Kansas or Kentucky. There's a group of kids in that school who identify as cats. And they are dressing like cats, and if they don't like what you say, they are hissing at you like cats. I'm not so sure that providing litter boxes for them would be appropriate. But I do believe that you should use the bathroom of your birth gender, whether you're male or you're female. That's my personal opinion. We have not, to my knowledge, had this come up since my tenure here on the board since 2018. It's a conversation that I have had behind closed doors, obviously, because it hasn't been an issue for us to address. We cannot also, we have to follow the law. I am one who will tout the law, and I will try to follow the law to the T. The law says you cannot discriminate on the basis of race, gender, ethnicity, and so on and so forth. So it's not like we would have a deep conversation and say, what is your biological gender? Although I think we should. We don't do that. One of the solutions that I think we could actually talk about is single-use bathrooms. Create single-use bathrooms, one stall for one student, and we wouldn't have this issue. One stall for one student, like we use in restrooms, or you go in one that's not, there aren't a row of facilities for you to use. One use, one single stall, one lock, one at a time. You also wouldn't have the issue of smoking or vaping or using drugs or doing anything else in the bathrooms if you had one stall for one student, including bullying or harassing or anything else. So I think that we need to have those kinds of conversations. Schools are not created, our schools now, because they're so old, they're not created to have one-use single stalls. So that's another conversation for another time. But I do believe that if you are born of a particular gender, that you should use the bathroom to the gender of which you were born.
I agree with that. Boys should go to the boys' bathroom, girls should go to the girls' bathroom. It should be based on the biological gender of the person. And as a school board member, the question came up, what can we do about it? As far as the school district is concerned, I do have a solution. I would propose a resolution, hopefully to be supported by the majority of the board, that we put a policy in place. This becomes a policy issue. And that the policy, in so many words, would say what I just said, that we rely on the biological gender of the student, and they will go to their respective, use their respective restrooms. Boys to the boys' room, girls to the girls' room. And once you have a policy in place, then the important thing is these school boards, they're charged with making policy. The administration is charged with making sure that those policies are implemented and followed. So then it would be up to the superintendent and the administration to make sure if that policy was put in place, that it's followed, that principals and assistant principals and teachers know what the policy is, and they have to follow the policy. And it's almost amazing to me that we're even talking about this, but it is an issue like many other issues that that we're dealing with. But my view is boys go to the boys' bathroom, girls go to the girls' bathroom based on the biological gender. And whatever happens in the outside of the school district becomes another issue. But as far as the school district is concerned, that would be the policy that I would recommend to the board. Not that I would recommend it, but I would basically propose it in the form of a motion that we put that policy in place, and we have administration prepare, along with legal, a policy that we can discuss and we can vote on and put it in place, and then to make sure with follow-up that the policy is adhered to. And that's what I would do. That's the way it works. Okay? So that's it.
It's obviously very easy to agree with everything that was just said, and I do. What's a bathroom used for? To go to the bathroom. And I'll tell you a story. I worked at XM Satellite Radio. We had 82 studios. We had this one called Bluesville. It just was all about the blues. And the mayor of Bluesville at the time when I was working there was B.B. King. So he would come into town, and they gave him a key to the Radio City and all that stuff. So I came out of my studio way down on the other side of the building, or on the other side of the hall, and I was going to use the bathroom. And there's this wheelchair there, and I walk in, there's this guy there, and there's B.B. King using the bathroom. But I'm not going to shake his hand. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to use the bathroom. I'm not going to talk to the guy. As much as I want to, and all that stuff. A bathroom is for a biological purpose. That's my point. And that's what it should be used for only. It's a place where students sometimes escape. I have a friend who had a kid in Oslo, and she was being harassed by people who were trying to say that her identity wasn't as it was. Here we go again with that question back where I said earlier. Let's put the kids into groups, and it's the same way with sexual identity as it is with race. Because I'm trying to break you down to forget your individuality. And I want you to be in a group. I want gays against straight, I want this against that, I want whatever. That's what I want to create if I'm progressive. Because I want to break down the American ideal. That the individual can grow up, have a dream, pursue that dream, get educated in that dream, and that's where we come in, and then release them to their destiny. If we got us spinning around about this and how to use a toilet, it doesn't work. Because our eye's off the ball. So I agree, policy. Guys use guys' room, girls use girls' room. You know, showers, all that stuff. When you come off of the athletic training field, football field, hockey, whatever, you go there to biologically get cleaned up and move on and do the next thing in your life. And that's what they're for. And that's what they should be stated to be for. And it's unfortunate we have to do that.
There he goes. All right, question number 6. Are you for or against school-based health clinics that perform examinations, provide immunization and medications, dispense birth control devices, and provide abortion referrals without written parental consent?
Absolutely not. I don't even think this should be a discussion. Absolutely not. We have laws in place right now, thanks to our wonderful governor, to prevent any of this happening. Schools do not have a right. We are not medical facilities. We are not doctors. We are not nurses, although every school has a nurse in it, a school nurse to take care of, a kid gets sick, they go to the nurse's office, they fall, they hurt their arm, that sort of thing. But we are not trained mental health professionals to handle these issues. We're not doctors. We don't prescribe anything. We shouldn't prescribe anything. And we shouldn't even get into that discussion. That includes, psychological support. We are not here for that. We do have children who need those support services. That's why we have local agencies and organizations that we can refer parents to take their children to those facilities and organizations and get those needs taken care of. But that is not the place of the school district. That is not the place of the personnel that we have here. For that, go elsewhere. We will support parents however way that we can, but that is a parental choice. That is a parental right to make those decisions. We should not have those discussions without parental consent, and we shouldn't even begin to discuss having these opportunities for kids in our schools.
Another horrific issue. It's just amazing to me that we're dealing and we're talking about everything except student achievement. When are we ever going to get to that? But the fact of the matter is, I agree with Jackie. There is no place for that. We should have excellent referral services. We have many organizations in this county that can provide those services and help children that are in need of those services. I spent just a couple of weeks ago. I left the board of Treasure Coast Community Health. I was on that governing board of directors for a number of years, but I figured I needed more time to do this, so I left the board. As I said, it was only a couple of weeks ago. But through Treasure Coast Community Health, I'm familiar with a lot of the organizations, and there's so many of them, where we can have excellent referral services that families can be helped, but we shouldn't be, like Jackie said, we're not doctors. We shouldn't be doing this in our school district. And so that's my position on it. I would not want to see something like that continue in our schools.
This is not something a school should do. Period. There's a case going on in Clay County right now. 11-year-old girl. Counselor, 2 years out of college, counseling her on transitioning. The school notified the parents on the second suicide attempt. That's how far this can go. And it goes back to our last question about identity. And it goes about that whole thing, groups, trying to convince people they're part of this group and not a part of that group, and so on and so forth. Ruining and destroying personal identity. And so, all of these things, immunizations, medications, dispense birth control devices, and provide abortion referrals without written parental consent, no. Thank you, Aaron Grawl, for codifying that in law. Now, some of the arguments are that not every parent's a perfect parent. Some of them are abusive, some of them are this, some of them are that. I get it. It's at the core of this is relationships, individuals. And so, we do have to be cognizant, but it's not our total responsibility. Something like this will drive your taxes through the moon. When all of this stuff is in place already, there's no reason for it in the school system. Online learning got taken away out of the budget because of infiltration of things like this and other ideas. So administratively, money moves this way in kids' education, and their access to learn about what they believe in their heart is their dream is limited. It should be the other way around. This needs to be limited and stopped, and access to the tools that they need to succeed needs to be robust.
This is another example of government overstepping boundaries. As a parent, that would be horrific that someone would refer my child to an abortion clinic without me knowing. We have great services in this county. My wife volunteers at CareNet, which is a fantastic organization here. We have to take back what's happened. If you notice, what are we talking about? A whole bunch of garbage. Over and over again. We're not talking about the 9 elementary schools that dropped a 1 letter grade or more last year in our county, or the 2 middle schools that dropped 1 letter grade or more, or the 2 high schools that dropped 1 letter grade or more. By the way, the district did not put that information out on their public website. They opted out of doing that last year. Why? Why do you think? Control the narrative. Everything is great. Talk to teachers. Those 2 teachers in the back, I'd love to have some chats with you. Because I would bet the one person of the, like I said, between 40 and 50 that I talk to, the one person teaches extremely high-level kids. And she said to me, I really don't have the issues that you're talking about. One. Everyone else has the issues that we're talking about, the discipline issues, the lack of respect. Folks, we have allowed this in the classrooms. Do you know that? The biggest thing that teachers tell me is, I can't get them to put their phones away. They're teaching and the phones are out. And so I'm like, hey, well, this you need to say this is not accepted. This is what they tell me. It's not a battle I can win. That's what the teachers are saying. It's not a battle they can win. It's scary. And so we talked about the pornography issue. Hello. You don't think a kid could be in a class looking at porn? Honestly, how many times have you seen on, actually many occasions, a college student, somebody's got a video, and he's in a lecture, and he's watching porn in the back? Seriously. So, back to the health portion. Yeah, no, none of this. I mean, there's nothing else I can even add to that. It's obviously, no, we're not going to provide those services to these students, especially without parental consent. Just another thing. taking away the parents' rights.
All right. Speaking of parental rights, this next question goes into a little bit more too. What is the purpose of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom setting? And the follow-up question is, what is your thoughts on the House Bill 1557, Parental Rights in Education from 2022?
Again, as far as parental involvement in our schools, it's amazing to me that the doors have been closed and that we have this push and tug. I have always valued the input of parents, and we need to let them back in. We need to have them providing input and being involved in the educational process in meaningful ways. We can't teach our kids and improve student achievement, which we need to talk more about, as I said before, without the involvement of our parents. It needs to be a community partnership that involves all stakeholders. And what's disheartening to me in our school district is that doesn't appear to exist, that we're polarized, that we have parents on one side, we have the school district personnel on the other side. We need to come together if we're going to improve the learning, student learning in our schools, and if we're going to improve student achievement. It's essential that the whole question of equity and inclusion. What was that again, John?
Yeah,
equity,
inclusion in the classroom, diversity as well.
Well, I mean, diversity. I think we all agree that diversity is important. We live in a diverse society, and we need to learn to respect one another, to value one another, not just to tolerate one another, regardless of what your skin color is, or what your ethnic background is, or whether you're from Vero Beach or from New York. We need to value, that was a little joke by the way, we need to value each other. And that's what we should be teaching our children. We should be teaching our children that everyone has a rightful place in this country. We all should be helping one another, supporting one another, not fighting with one another. Somebody had mentioned, I think it was Josh, mentioned about discipline. And one of the issues that we have in the school district is, we've witnessed in the news many fights in the high schools and so on and so forth. And we have to take a good, hard, analytical look at restorative justice. And what role does that play? And is it being implemented in the way that it needs to be implemented? So we can have equity, we can have inclusion, but we all need to cooperate, we all need to come together as a community, all stakeholders, to support our children and to make sure that they develop into law-abiding citizens and that they improve their achievement. That to me is the most important thing. I'm done.
Thank you, Jim. For those of you, HB 1557, that's the one that's been in the news, the quote, "Don't say gay" bill. Well, the bill doesn't say gay, so I guess we got it right. Sorry about that. But really, you know what else is in that bill, which is more important, is that there has to be transparency about curriculum and extra instructional materials like library books. They're zeroed in on this one little K through 3 thing, but really, the transparency and the giving to parents more, revealing more to the parents what's going on in the schools is more important in that bill. Diversity. This is a diverse audience. You know why it's diverse? People might say to me, well, the majority of the people here are white. No, you're all individuals. Every one of you is diverse. Qualities and characteristics. So diversity is not a problem in our school, never has been. Equity. I want to read something to you because this shocked me. Okay, I printed it out thinking I probably wouldn't have to read it, but here I go. This comes from Project Re-Envision 2025, the district strategic plan. Okay, there are 5 focuses, and each one has targets within the focus. Equity, culture, and climate is the focus. Target goals of the focus area, points 1 and 2 state. Eliminate out-of-school suspension by increasing the use of alternatives to suspension. We had a mention of this earlier. Kid gets sent out, they turn around, come right back in, and they know the deal, right? Here's number 2. This really sort of shocked the living heck out of me. Eliminate disparities in classroom removals of all racial, ethnic subgroups of students so that risk ratios for subgroup comparisons are equal to 1. This says right here, we're going to discipline by race. And it passed. You're never going to desegregate, and we're under a desegregation order, which, by the way, was done demographically based on the makeup of the county originally in 1967. We're still going at it 53 years later because the goalposts keep moving. But you're never going to desegregate by disciplining with segregation. And I'll leave it there.
So what is the purpose of diversity in the classroom setting? Well, diversity is the differences that we all have. But we need to respect and honor people's diversity from different countries, different cultures. I'm all for it, 100%. I have a mixed grandson. I have had to learn cultures are different. We know that. But when you're involved in that scenario, you realize there is a difference. And it's okay. Yeah. It's just different. So that is one reason that you would teach diversity in the classroom setting. Why would you teach inclusion in the classroom setting? That's what the question is asking me. I'll use my son as an example. Gabe is 22. He has autism. We found out very early because he was our 4th child. Very blessed that we got services very early for him. His educational experience, sans 1 year, has been amazing. We lived here almost 12 years. Liberty Magnet to Storm Grove Middle School to Sebastian High School. Has been amazing. The kids have been amazing. I can't tell you, this is a true story, but I can't tell you, my wife and I, Gabe, we had to fight to get him onto the choral program, the chorus, at Sebastian River High School. We fought. We got him on. Immediately, the choral teacher, awesome man, came and said to us, he's my second best singer. First day. The kids, the other students, were like his siblings. They loved him. They helped him. When he had to do movements, they made sure that he was where he was supposed to be. The bus drivers. Mr. Rick picks my son up at 5:40 in the morning every day. They're amazing. They love our children. So when we wire these things being taught, those are acceptance pieces. Everybody's different. We need to recognize that. And it's okay to be different. Now, what are my thoughts on the House bill? Well, parental rights. We talked about, again, we're talking about things that, like, to me, common sense, should we even have to talk about this stuff? I mean, it is amazing. I sit here and I scratch my head and I go, what are we doing? And yet, here we are. Again, what has the focus been tonight? It's not been on the education part. I hate to say it. It's not been on the education part. It's not been on the fact that teachers are about to get out of here. Talk to them. People that are in the drop program going, I'm not going to be able to make it 2 more years to drop. People that are going, you know what, I'm at that 15-year mark. I'm ready to go. That's what we need to be talking about.
So I think my colleagues, each one had a good definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I think Josh hit hit the nail on the head when he talked about the differences with children in the classroom, using his son as an example. We also have another subset of students that I don't think that we pay attention to enough. And those are the students who are English language learners. Those are children that also need to be included in everything. And we don't talk about them enough. We don't offer students who have special needs enough of the same opportunities as we do with everyone else. We have students in our school district who are deaf and hard of hearing. I'm sure you don't know about that. We have students who receive sign language services. We have students in our district who are very, very different multiculturally, where they come from. We have students who are just, even in their sports, their after-school activity, they're different in their giftings. They're different in their ability to give back. They're just different academically. We have different kids in every single classroom, in every single seat. So how do we reach every single one of them? The idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion came from everyone being offered the same opportunities no matter what it is. The problem is that the world has taken diversity, equity, and inclusion and has rolled it up within the BLM movement and the SEL movement and the critical race theory movement and all of these other movements that are really hijacking good opportunities for kids. And so for that, I think that it's a shame. It's really a shame. On the issue of the House bill, I'm all for limited government. I've never really been one for a lot of government involvement. But I cannot be more grateful for the state legislatures that we have in Florida. At the moment where I was arguing that these library books were important enough to get off of the shelves, our state legislatures were having these same discussions. And thankfully, they passed a bill that said every school district has to give parents an opportunity to not only know what's on the shelves and not only know what's being taught in the classrooms, but to also have input in those decision-making, to sit on the committees, to be a part of the vetting, to be a part of knowing and understanding what is being taught to your students. So that's part of what is in this bill in 1557. It's being able to give, it's really an extension from the parental rights bill that was passed last year. So I'm all for it, I'm 100% on board, and I'm grateful that we now have this as a law.
All right, am I on? Yep, there we go. All right, we're down to our last question. I was informed there's another question on here that we don't have time for, but it's near and dear to my heart. And it's, what is your position on regarding public input in school meetings?
Well, yeah, let's have more of it.
But I invite you guys afterwards, but this will be a fire question, but afterwards, if you'd like to sit down with us at the podcast and discuss that question, I would be welcoming to that. And
ask that question.
Another question. You can answer it now if you like. Yeah. But I'm going to do one more question, though. So we have our 8th and final question, so we can get out of here in a decent amount of time. And Tom, this will be up first. As people leave here tonight, what would you like them to remember about you or take away as to why they should vote for you?
Really? Well, I wrote some stuff down, as you can tell. We just have to find out where I wrote it. And as I look for it, I'm losing time. Aha! My name's Thomas Kenny. Vote for me August 23rd. Now, for Indian Rivers County School Board District 4. Look, I'm a taxpayer, small business owner, and an active citizen addressing local issues in my community. I realize there's a dire need for common sense citizen advocacy. And I'll use the example of the public input. The big thing about the public input stuff that happened is everyone said, well, the public won't lose their right to free speech. And that was absolutely wrong. And here's why. And everyone needs to know this. They were moving it outside the gavel of a business meeting. You see, when you speak after that gavel drops, they have to listen. What you say can get on the agenda of a next business meeting. But if it's taken outside, yeah, you can speak, but no one has to listen. So I'm like, hey, let's make it 5 minutes. Because I want to know, as your representative, what you're thinking, where your heart is on a matter. Look, if we don't do this as citizens, if Jennifer and Chris and we the people of Indian River and Moms for Liberty doesn't do this, where are our school systems today? If they aren't signing up to get a speaking slot, it's an hour out of your Monday once a month. Should be twice a month. Right? And so what happens? Well, the board members are going to turn inward. Hey, we got this. No one cares. And they're going to start listening to union heads and admin people who have agendas and nonprofits that want to push certain things. And publishers are going to start sending them recommended titles. This is important. And that's why I'm running. People heard my perspective and they said, you need to run. And I went to the supervisor of elections and I was like, I don't know. And there was this magnet in my heart that says, go for it. I want you to go for it. So that's on here. VoteThomasKennedy.com, August 23rd, 2022.
Well, what I'd like you to remember about me tonight is I'm a normal person. I'm just like you. I'm a parent. I'm a grandparent. And I care about these kids. I care about the students. I care about the teachers. I hear their concerns. We need to address these things. We need to take action. I would encourage all of us to get involved. Somehow, some way. Volunteer, school board meetings, 1 a month now instead of 2. 3 minutes, now it's 2. I'm going to answer your question here. Sarasota County in Florida, the chairman of the school board had somebody kicked out before they even started talking last night. Folks, pay attention. It's coming. What we have right now is a part of our society is against pretty much what every one of us. If you haven't noticed, we're all pretty similar on everything. Yep, I agree with that. I agree with Jackie. Thomas, we're very similar. We have to get involved. That's the biggest thing. It's not a brag. It's just to tell you a little bit about me as a person. I taught 7th and 8th grade, pre-algebra honors and geometry honors, Stormville Middle School. I got honored this year by 4 graduating seniors, 3 going to UF, 1 going to UCF, from Vero Beach High School to Sebastian River High School. And the biggest thing that they always said, it wasn't that Mr. Post was nice, or that Mr. Post was somebody I could go easily talk to. This is what they all said. Mr. Post taught me to work hard. He taught me grit. He didn't just give grades. The valedictorian from Sebastian River High School, Jaden Hughes, I taught him 2 years. If you read the article in the newspaper the other day, he had 1 B. It was my class. Listen, I don't brag about that. I've had multiple parents literally say to me, you're my kid's only B. And you know what? If it's done right, you know what the kids say to me? But I learned more from that B than I did if you'd have given me an A. And some of them were like 89.2, which means they were really close to an A. The kids knew I worked hard, I had high expectations for them. In this role, I will work hard for you, and I have high expectations for myself and my fellow folks. Please vote for me on August 23rd.
In 2018, when I first ran, I thought I had an idea of what this position would mean. I thought I knew what would be expected of me as a school board member. But I've come to find out over the last several years that I was grossly wrong. The work of a school board member is so much more than what you can think of. We are really, honestly, I think I know my role now better than I ever did before. I understand that our job is to ask the tough questions. Our job is to do the research. Our job is to know every single item that comes before us on an agenda and be able to articulate it, be able to understand all of the, minutia that comes with it. And not be afraid to bring it forward or question the superintendent or question your fellow board members when you have concerns. And that's what I think that I want to leave with you all. Please know that for the last 3.5 years, I have worked really, really hard to do the research, to question, to raise issues of concern, and to bring it forward and be the voice of the people. I don't work for the superintendent. I work for you. I am your voice. I listen to my constituents. If my constituents have a concern or they have an idea, a suggestion, I don't have worries about bringing it to the district or letting others know, hey, someone had this idea and mention who had the idea. And if it's accepted and it's well received, wonderful. But I don't have any other ulterior motive but to do right by kids and to be the voice of the people. That's what elected officials do. And as a school board member, making sure that kids come first in all of our decisions is critical. So just know, I am a mom, I am a homeschool mom, I am a woman of faith, I should say that first. I'm a woman of faith, then a mom, and then obviously an educator, a lifelong educator, and a school board member now. And I hope that on August 23rd, I would have earned your vote, if I haven't already, and I would continue to be the voice of the people for you on this school board for District 2. Thank you very much.
What do I want you to remember about me? I have a unique set of skills and experiences, and I'm here tonight and running for the school board because I think they could use my help. I'm beyond astonished about the issues that we're dealing with and the distraction of those issues from the real issues of how do we improve student learning, how do we improve student achievement, how do we bring our school district to the next level. I have a perspective as a parent, I have a perspective as a taxpayer, as a school board member, as a classroom teacher, as an assistant superintendent for finance. I've run the financial operations of the school district for quite a number of years before becoming a superintendent. Over 17 years as a school superintendent. I bring a unique set of skills and a unique set of experiences and perspectives that I think would be helpful in resolving some of the issues and some of the challenges that we currently face in our school district. I know that school board races are nonpartisan, and they should be, but I think we've all learned in the last couple of years that it's important to know the ideology of the people that we are electing to sit on the board at every level of government, regardless of political party. I have a conservative ideology. If you see some of the materials that I brought here tonight, that I do teach in a doctoral program I teach in a school leadership program at Columbia University. Please do not jump to judgment. I am probably one of the only conservative professors there, but I am a conservative, and that is my ideology. I've been a conservative my entire adult life. I think I can help as far as the issue of that was brought up about from John about the 3-minute
citizen input.
Yeah, business input or visitor input rather. When I was on the school board, I think I told you I served as a school board member in my hometown for 14 years. 6 of those 14 years I was board president. And I had the authority to suspend with any 3-minute rule. And my perspective has always been, do not silence dissenting voices. You need to hear those dissenting voices. You need to hear all voices. And I never cut anyone off. I suspended with the 3-minute rule, and I let people talk. And I let people get it out. I let them get their ideas and their feelings out. And I would continue to do that as a school board member. So vote for me, August 23rd, District 1. And I will tell you, after hearing everyone up here, we're going to be in good hands, regardless of who winds up on the board.
All right, that was the last question. We stuck in that little question with the citizen input. It was nice. Thanks for everybody for coming. I do want to thank our sponsors and our partners, Vero Christian Church, the Wilkersons, Dayton Dawn. Thanks for having us here. Obviously, these people in your county, Jennifer and Chris and Rick, Moms for Liberty in River County as well. Indian River News is here. Sign up for Indian River News. Get your real news. Get the good stuff, the stuff that's really deep. And again, TGI Now Podcast. Eddie, my partner, is here as well. He came in and he's a partner at Rondell as well as our podcast. Sign up for our podcast and get more information on this stuff as well. We really appreciate all the donations and everybody that participated tonight, and look forward to doing some more of these again and have more candidates up here to do it. What's that? Yeah, and so Thomas Kinney, Jim Parla, Jacqueline Rosario, and Josh Posca. Thank you for being here, guys.